And as you can see, I'm putting the nose down. You see they're both coming up, so now my nose is pointed directly at the waypoint. And the best way to visualize it is a waypoint is not a circle on a map, but like a ball in 3D space. It has a three dimension. It has an altitude, a y-axis, and it has a longitude, latitude, which would be like a x-axis. Of course, now I'm really far off course. So that explains the ADI as best that I can explain it, and as best that I hope it resolves a few people's confusion with the ADI. Required heading indication and required bank indication, and the required, as it's called, pitch indicator, the yellow bar, and required altitude. So on the same note is, I'll move on to the horizontal situation indicator, and it correlates with the ADI in a similar concept, but instead of a 3D concept, the HSI is like a map. It's just in a 2D concept. The horizontal situation indicator provides a top-down view of the aircraft in relation to the intended course. The compass rotates so that the current heading is always shown at the top. In other words, the current heading. We are flying basically to 130, 145 degrees. That is our current heading. So it's a compass, basically. It's always a compass. As you can tell, we're now flying at 120 degrees. So it's pretty simple, a compass. The outer circle or inner circle, so to speak. Okay, the course arrow shows the required heading, and the bearing pointer points to the next waypoint. And this, where a lot of confusion comes in. As on the ADI, the upper small white needle is the required heading. That correlates with the bearing pointer, and the bearing pointer is the yellow indicator or the yellow arrow. It always points towards your next waypoint. So it's pointing the direction you should go to get to your next waypoint. So if we go far enough off course, as we're going to do in this case, the course arrow shows the required heading, and this is really two sentences, so there should be a comma, and the bearing pointer points to the next waypoint. So let's stop and review that for a minute. Because, as in my case, there's a little confusion before I finally got it. If you look, you see that the bearing pointer, as it's called, the bearing pointer is splitting off from what is called the course arrow. So the bearing pointer, the yellow needle, is starting to split off. And I'll wait a couple of minutes until it really starts to split off considerably. So what it's showing us, and the ADI required heading is showing us, is that our waypoint is to our right. So let's turn now. And let's set up. So now we are pointing to our waypoint, but the required heading is different. And the reason for that, and I'll just speak on the HSI, not the required heading, but the course arrow. The reason for that is because the intended course that we should be on, the course that's drawn out on the map, is 147 degrees. And if you look, that is what the course arrow shows. It never changes for the particular waypoint route that we're on. In other words, we're on waypoint route from waypoint 4 to waypoint 5. Drawn on a map, that is a waypoint route. That pencil line between those two is drawn at 147 degrees. And that doesn't change. That stays the same no matter what. So what this is telling us is that pencil line is 147 degrees from waypoint 4 to waypoint 5. That's the double course arrow. The waypoint line is showing us our direction to the next waypoint, just like the required heading needle on the ADI. So I hope that explains that as well as I can. Now the window in the HSI upper left corner is the kilometers to the waypoint. As you can see, we're almost there. And the right window in the HSI shows us the same thing that the course arrow shows us. It shows us our planned waypoint heading route between waypoint 4 and waypoint 5. And when we reach waypoint 5, as you'll see in a minute, the required heading arrow, or the course arrow on the HSI, and let me rephrase that, the HSI course arrow will change to show the planned heading route between waypoint 5 and waypoint 6. So you will see that in just a moment. You see the counter ticking down. And there it goes. So you see now the next waypoint and the next heading is now shown on the HSI. As best as I can, I hope, that is at 82 degrees. And again, the course arrow will not change no matter how far we go off course, because it's just telling us the course that we were supposed to be on. And the course arrow again is a double white arrow on the HSI, and the waypoint pointer on the HSI is the yellow arrow, and it corresponds directly with the ADI required heading needle, the small white needle at the top of the ADI. So I hope that helps a few people out, and with a little bit less confusion. Okay, distance to the next waypoint required heading are shown numerically at the top, which we covered that. That's the two small windows, the left and the right windows. One is the distance and the other is the heading. And then the ILS localizer glide slope bars are in the center. And that is in conjunction with the ILS landing, which basically I'll just say this: if you're not flying into an airport with PRMG equipment or beacon, then that function will not work in Su-25T. The Su-25 Tango only has a receiver capable of picking up ILS localizer and glide slope beams from a PRMG beacon. Not all airports have that. Okay, let's cover the vertical velocity indicator, VVI. The vertical velocity indicator measures the aircraft vertical speed, rate of climb, or sink. The slip indicator backs up the slip indicator on the ADI. The turn indicator shows the turn direction, though the rate of turn shown is only approximate. So basically, fairly self-explanatory. And we get the ball centered, oops, and such as that. I'm going to put the autopilot back on now. And while autopilot's taking us back where we go, okay, radar altimeter. The radar altimeter indicates altitude above the ground from 0 to 1,500 meters. If you're above 1,500 meters, the radar altimeter doesn't work. You get the red indicator as it's shown. Tachometer. The tach is intended for measuring rotor RPM of both engines. Measuring is indexed in percent from maximum rotor RPM. So that's basically either your N1 or N2. I don't know which one. Fuel quantity indicator. Fuel quantity shows the fuel remaining in all tanks. And this is another point that has been some confusion and had to do some research on. The fuel quantity indicator that's shown in the Su-25 Tango manual by default is actually the one that's in the standard Su-25. And they're not the same. But basically, the way that it works, in the Su-25 Tango, the two white bars are your total fuel quantity. The indicator lights, actuator lights to the left, display the amount of fuel that you have in the tanks. And the tank warnings are basically what they are. When one is on, as we have now, the inner two external tanks are nearing empty. When 2 is on, as we also have now, the outer two external tanks are showing empty, as you see. So basically, both of our wing tanks are empty or near empty. When KP is on, the wing tanks are near empty or empty. When 3/4, 3rd and 4th tanks are on, and I'm assuming that 3rd and 4th tanks are either inboard wing tanks or fuselage tanks. When they are on, then those tanks are nearing empty. When, and I don't know what that symbol is, like a U in English, central, when that is on, the central fuel tank is empty or nearing empty. And then when dot 5 is on, or bingo foot fuel as it's called, the very lowest one, last one, your emergency fuel quantity equals or is less than 500 kilograms. That's what you have remaining. Now the fuel capacity for the Su-25T, internal tanks is 3,790 kilograms. With 2 external tanks is 5,030 kilograms. With 4 external tanks is 6,270 kilograms, which is what we have. Cool. Now that is fuel quantity indicators. Jet engine temperature, turbine temperature indicators. The two interstage turbine temperature indicators show the temperature of the exhaust gas from left and right engine turbines. So TIT, that's or sometimes called EGT. Pressure altimeter. The barometric air pressure altimeter indicates the aircraft's altitude above sea level. The outer altitude ring scale is generated from 0 to 1,000, is graduated from 0 to 1,000 meters in increments of 10 meters. The inner indication is altitude in meters. Red window is failure flag and changes to 0 when powered. Lower window is barometric pressure setting, adjusted field elevation, which we saw that at the beginning of the flight. Basically, we have a 0, so we're powered and good to go.